infrastructure and software platform company. He's an experienced business leader having diverse experience of more than 28 years across various IT companies like IBM, Sun Microsystems, Blueport Systems, EMC, Dell, and Amazon Web Services. His sales experience includes leading business teams and handling startups to large enterprises and conglomerates, and covers the gamut of IT, hardware, software, services, security, and cloud computing. Incidentally, we had met up at China at the airport when there was a major crisis with respect to flights, and even now again we have caught up when the COVID crisis has struck.
Hi, Revati. Thanks a lot for this opportunity, and good afternoon to all the kids and parents out here. As we say, IT is always a very fascinating world, and if you had heard the previous speakers, right, Mr. George Matthew also spoke about information systems. Mr. Akshay spoke about the knowledge of algorithmic trading, and the use of languages, software languages, and fundamental and technical analysis in the stock market. Karan spoke about, in economics as well, the knowledge of data and visualization. So it's a really fascinating world out there, and I'll take some real life examples for you. And Revati, I'll also try to see how fast I can move through this one. So that we can save some time, for everybody. So a quick view on the agenda. I'll speak about the information technology streams and scope. More importantly, as Revati spoke about, right, the importance of purpose for all of you and the importance of time, right? What should you pursue and how should you pursue that, right? Which is actually non-IT. It's more like a concept. And then how is IT coming together, in a post-COVID world, and what are the key trends which are ruling IT? The importance of data, as every speaker before this has spoken. What are some of the hot careers and skill sets, and how do you get skilled? None of these were open to us when we were all doing our engineering and all. But as of now, the internet is one vast university, right, for all of us. So how can you get your hands on these massive online, open courses, and then you can actually beef up your skill sets, even without moving from your home. Use this time to really get skilled and have all the weapons in your armory to rule the world. I think these are two comments which typically keep coming, and people start reading it all the time, right? Software is eating the world. So first and foremost, every organization is becoming a software company, right? If you talk about the picture on the right, it speaks about data being the new oil, which is what Karan referred to just before me. So if you look at all of these, right, given the oil prices today, data better be the new oil, right? Especially if you look at Amazon, the Ubers of the world, the Microsofts of the world, the Googles of the world, Facebooks and Teslas, these are probably having more valuations than the earlier brick and mortar companies, right? We all know General Motors, which has been an iconic business organization, many for more than 100 years, 140 years. But then they don't figure anymore in the top, top list, right, of US organizations, or for that matter, the Fortune 100, right? So these are the real biggies as far as the world going forward is concerned. So I wanted to introduce you to a concept of Ikigai, right? I'm sure a lot of parents know it, some of the kids will also know it. And the reason I wanted to introduce you to this is that if you are looking for a balance, which Revati spoke about, from a life perspective, if you're looking at doing what satisfies you, if you're looking at doing what you love doing, there could be a space where it will overlay with, what the world needs, and then maybe you can get paid for it as well. So if you were to look at a balance between a passion, a mission, a profession, and then a vocation, which is like a hobby, you'll probably have to get a unique balance of what is something which will really put you in good stead. And there is this Japanese concept, and there are a lot of books written on that, which essentially means that what is your purpose of in this, living in this world, right? And it refers to a direction or a purpose in life. And the reason I'm saying that is that software is ubiquitous, right? It rules the world, and it can be there everywhere, as I will speak about it. And if you look at typical brain structures for individuals and all of us human beings, we are talking of the left brain and the right brain, right? And then if you look at it, one side of the brain really speaks about people who are analytical, people who use data, people who use data for everything, technical analysis, as Akshay spoke about. There are statisticians and mathematics folks, and I'll run you through a real visualization, as to how COVID-19 was actually seen. And then if you look at on the right hand side, we are talking of people who are very creative. We are talking of people who are very collaborative, people who are having storytelling skills, design students, so to talk about, and so there is a world for all of us out there. If you marry the nature of human being you are, whether you're a left brain person or a right brain person, and then marry it what you want to do, and find that ikigai as the purpose in life, I think the chances of our success are much, much more, right? So in typical, from the software skills, which we'll speak about later, there are a few things which are important, right? Revati spoke about time, the importance of networking and communication, right? Now, that does not mean that if you're an introvert, you do not speak to others. You actually build networks, human networks, so that, like this is one example of a human network, right? None of us speakers know each other, but we've all come together to present on a platform which is enabled by Shahid and Revati to provide, some value-added advice to all of you, so that you all can make better decisions in life. So, and that this is the true strength of technology, right? This technology platform is what brings us all together. So, just to give you a quick sense of where this IT industry is, right? If you look at the overall global map, 32% of all IT happens in the US. Now, it is done by people from India, from all the larger organizations like Wipro, Infosys, and all those system integrators, as we call it. But 32% of all the IT actually happens in the US. And then if you take a look at the next biggest market, it is the European market. And then, of course, we have seen China come through with, Baidu and, WeChat and, a whole lot of newer organizations, Alibaba. And so there's a big thing happening in China and India. India is again big because of all the startups we have. You have all these, startups like Swiggy and Fasos and Book My Show and Grofers and Big Basket. All of these are technology startups. They're all e-commerce startups. And then there is Australia down there, which is a big market as well. So you could, if you tomorrow want to live in Australia and you still want to do sports coverage and you want to use data for that, you could probably choose a career which will take you to Australia. I'm just giving an example, of how, or if you like Formula One racing, you might probably want to go to Singapore. And do data visualization on Formula One. So the key categories essentially are software, which is probably biggest. It shows 12%, but it drives the rest of the businesses. Then you have devices like your mobile phones, tablets, and then the infrastructure which runs all the software. There are a whole lot of business services which are provided by companies of all types. The big four consulting companies like KPMG and all those people as well provide. And then there is emerging technology, right? What is AI? What is ML? Artificial intelligence, machine language, and all of those things which are really changing the way we live in this world. And then of course 5G coming and brings a whole new paradigm, right? How did the Chinese government trace all those people who had COVID-19? Right? They use mobile phones, they use 5G. They actually were able to trace it back to the person and then find out. So it is all pervasive. Though it is classified into hardware, software, security, and services. Security is probably one of the most important, but the least understated. We Indians tend to be slightly casual about security. The moment we sign up for Gmail, we know that we have given away everything from our personal, desktops in terms of using of information. But security is going to be the new paradigm forward, right? And careers in security are hugely paying. For the simple fact that you can be an ethical hacker, you can show organizations how their network is getting hacked. There are and these are all being ethical hacking, right? Like you do it for a purpose, you do it for a job, you do it for your salary, and every organization, right from the Apple to the Amazons of the world, are really looking at security as the cornerstone of everything they do. That is day zero job for them, right? And then of course the typical hardware and the software firms which are all there. Just want to give you a quick sense of the COVID-19 world and exactly how COVID-19 actually sort of was visualized. And so this is how it was visualized, right? So just look at it, one woman going and infecting the rest of the world. But the way it is visualized gives you a very, very good view. And I just wanted to sort of, give you a sense of how this, eventually ended up in the entire world. But what is most important is that, so this is the world of visualization, guys. This is the world of data, and it is all written with all the languages the speaker spoke about earlier, which is, Python, and then using R to do the visualization. So this is essentially the piece, right? So I just go back to my slide deck, and so I'm speaking about the trends, right? So you have open source which has really opened up the world, right? Everybody is a developer. Every kid is a developer. The folks who are taking computer science in class 9 and 10, they start developing programs in Java, and then slowly you can get to C, and then you can get to Python. These are all programming languages, right? Cloud computing has made the availability of all the resources, across the world pervasive, right? It can be, you can actually use any cloud computing service from the confines of your home. You don't really need a huge data center. You don't need to invest in computers. And cloud computing essentially means that you can have access to all those, high-end computing, which otherwise a large organization or a large research lab or whatever happened, right? And then you have software as a service, right? So people are no longer just building software and then, selling it once. What they're doing is they are giving it to people to use and, pay based on the usage. Everything is becoming consumer driven. And then there's artificial intelligence, right? And then machine learning, which is one step beyond artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence is how do you increase the chances of success of a decision using a lot of data? And then machine learning essentially is how do you improve the decision itself with more and more data and improving on that decision. So that's a subtle difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning. And then deep learning eventually gets into, almost like the human mind, which is a neural network, and then gets into understanding even more patterns around the sets of data, and then comes out with even better decisions based on ML. So each is a subset of one. AI and then ML and deep learning are subsets of it. And then you have this IoT, right? Internet of Things, right? People have now can buy bulbs which can be switched off with Alexa. People can buy televisions which can be switched off with Alexa. People can buy geysers which can be switched off with Alexa. So I'm just giving a sense of what is the art of the possible with all of this, right? So I just want to run a small video again, of 6 digital skills which you can look at in college, right? Or if you're just looking at this, and just are you able to hear?
Yes, Pala. Pala, we are able to hear you.
I don't know whether you're able to hear the. Okay, maybe you can just look at the video, because there was some language for this one, but even the video will be enough.
We can hear you, Pala.
Search engine optimization is what Google does, right? The moment you write PUBG, then you find suddenly a lot of advertisements coming on your tab or mobile with all of PUBG, backgrounds, right? That is called as SEO, search engine optimization. How do you optimize the searches for the person who's actually doing the search? Okay, data visualization. I just showed you the example of COVID-19. How do you take a complicated situation like what happened in Wuhan and then show it to the rest of the world? That's what New York Times did. All those infographics, which can be created for economists, for oil and gas, depending upon whichever industry you want to work. And it's a fact that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they've all transformed their businesses, and eventually having this connection direct to consumers like us. And therefore, if you have a proficiency in these platforms, it can give you an advantage straight out of college, right? You can learn all of this. We saw visualization, now we are seeing data analytics. So if you can help some of these companies harness the data, I think it's important for them to consider you. And then these are all new opportunities which will immediately get you the relevant skills to find a job in life. And obviously money is important for all of us, and therefore it translates into great pay as well. And then if you go into other areas where you want to do and make a difference, we are talking about social media and digital marketing, right? How do you appeal to consumers, right? How do you show the impact of, if somebody is looking for food, how do you really make it available to whom so that it becomes really great for that person to go and buy that item out. And so digital marketing is a great use of collaborative tools to really reach out to people via email, via Twitter, via the opinion polls. I mean, like, this is an example, right, of digital marketing. The forum we are right now using is digital marketing. We are marketing across a diverse set of people. If you're going to look at PUBG, PUBG is made out of the same languages which people spoke about in the stock market and in the economists data visualization as well. So it is built on Python. That is the core of PUBG. You need Java because if you have to make it available on Android as well as for Apple, then you obviously have to have Java. And so if you look at Perl, if you look at JavaScript, right, it again has a lot of functions. Most importantly, if you wanted your Xbox to be running PUBG, then it needed an interface called JavaScript with something called a C hash. So there are programming languages for game development. So if you're very creative, if you play games, if you think that you can learn Python, by all means go and play PUBG. I mean, I just thought I'll sort of use the background to create some noises for you all as to how the sounds of PUBG are created, though that's not very important and relevant for this, but that's what it is. So the various things which are available for people are user interaction, user design, right? Again, dependent upon user interaction is what is the experience, and user design is how do you reach to that particular user. How does the website look? How does the entire experience look? Again, if you're great at games, then you can actually create virtual reality. You can become a mechanical engineer and then go into pumps and substations and manufacturing plants and look into the inside of the plants, because this is all augmented reality. You can look into each nut and bolt and say, okay, here is where the problem is. And that's the impact of software, right? Your data, you're a data person, you like a lot of analytics, business intelligence. Again, you can be a data scientist, you like statistics, you can be a data scientist, and data scientists are in demand. They're probably paid the highest. So as we spoke about AI and machine learning, AI and machine learning can only do so much. One day they will be better than the human mind, but we believe that the mind of a data scientist is better. And therefore, the data scientist comes in and says that, no, but this is the right decision to make based on this data. And that often turns out to be a better decision. So that's why data scientists are in bigger demand. But of course, they need to be great in statistics. They need to be great in computer science. They need to know machine learning, Python, R. SQL is a database language. It's called standard query language. And then Hadoop. Hadoop is big data. How do you use all the data in Crunch? Okay, if you like sports and Formula One, right? So you can do the same visualization like I did in the COVID-19 case and actually find out when should the car come back into the pit, when should the tires be changed, when should the driver speed more, when should the driver speed less, and all of that essentially is something which is again become driven by software, which is why it's called software is ruling the world. Okay, and then if you still like design, you can there's this world of smart cities. You're going to have Tesla cars, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles. So the convergence of 5G networks, the convergence of IoT, Internet of Things, the convergence of artificial intelligence, the convergence of robotics, the convergence of the world becoming smarter. It means that that was one of the reasons why China could probably contain the COVID-19 in the first place, because they used all of this, all of the data from WeChat, all of the data from the users, and then reach there. So just to give you a sense of, the possibilities are enormous. It just depends on, what side of the brain you have, what is it that you like, what is good for the world, and can you make some money out of it? As goes back to Ikigai. It's just an example, the design on Tesla, the design of digital dentistry solutions, right? I mean, that has become a big craze. People now want to design how their teeth should look like. And so if you really are looking for courses on these, you'll not get it in the traditional universities, like the Mumbai University or the Indian. So they are getting there, but then there are thousands of courses across the world. There are courses, I mean, which a previous speaker spoke about. Which example, this is a website for Python, which teaches programming in Python. And most importantly, you can go to Udacity, you can go to Udemy, you can go to Upgrade. You can go to any of these, Coursera. So you just have a huge amount of courses online, the Khan Academy, and you can just edX. There are tremendous amount of online courses which are there. So guys, whether you want to do a PUBG sort of a game, or whether you want to build the next Tesla, or whether you want to build the next aerospace, or the next shuttle to the moon, it is all software, right? There is hardware, and that hardware will be the one which will be more important to run the software, but it is software will decide what to run. So all the best. And as I said, do the best you can until you know better, but then you'll know better slowly as you do more and more courses, and therefore you'll do better. Thanks a lot, Revati. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Bala. That was really very, very insightful. And as also IT is the most happening career choice of most of the students these days. However, everybody wants to only pursue data science, and without knowing, there is so much more to the world of IT itself. You have software, hardware, and so on and so forth.